This is part of my definition of success, to be accepting of oneself, and that's to be accepting is part of becoming truly empowered in doing the work, doing the service that I was born to do.
Hey y'all, my name is Jessie Johnson, and this is the Success Sessions, where we talk about spirituality, money, success, and the complex and nuanced dynamics between those things. I'm super, like I can't even say enough supers. Grateful, tender, excited to be here with my dear friend and teacher and inspiration, Jahnavi Harrison. Thank you so much for being here.
So excited too.
I met Jahnavi probably 10 or so years ago. Mm-hmm. She was touring around playing kirtan at yoga studios, and I saw her sing and dance in a small yoga studio in Connecticut. I think that was the first time. And I just remember just weeping, and that was like the beginning of the end for me. Like then I followed you anywhere I could find you. I was listening to you. I just had a conversation actually yesterday with an old roommate of mine who reminded me of the scene of my first office in Brooklyn when I started my business. And in that office, I remember every day going to the office and putting on your album every day. It's like that music was the soundscape of my expansion. So your voice has, when you knew it and when you didn't know it, been a tremendous gift to me, teacher to me, inspiration to me, guide to me. And my guides are who I tend to bring on here. So I'm really excited to be here with you in real time.
What an honor. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. I actually want to go back in time a little bit. How did you think about success when you were little? In particular, how did you think about success in ways that you maybe now recognize as misconceptions or incomplete definitions?
It's a wonderful question. It's a deep question. Right before I answer that, I also want to just acknowledge my gratitude for our friendship, which has, as you say, it is about a decade, and we've met in many different places in the world, and in some senses met quite infrequently, especially in recent years, because we've just not been in the same place. But somehow when we meet, we always have such a beautiful connection. And I've observed and watched your journey of growth through these different phases you've gone through of your own successes and breaking through your own barriers, and it's been very inspiring. And I'm just always so grateful. You've always been somebody that whenever we're together, whenever I come away from our exchange, I always feel so encouraged and heard and uplifted. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you. But yeah, so success. Well, it's interesting. I was listening to a lecture just a day ago with a monk, Chaitanya Charan Das, and he was saying that in Bhakti Yoga, which is the spiritual tradition in which I was raised, the definition of success is really turned on its head, according to, compared to what in the sort of big wide world that we live in, how we define success, which is often related to material or personal goals, related to career or family, these sort of milestones. He was saying that success is defined by how pure your intention is, especially in living your life of service and devotion. How pure is that intention? Because no matter how great the action that you do, unless the intention is pure, what value does it have? How can you really say that's success? And that the ultimate success is to do anything, no matter how simple it may be, no matter how much or little wealth or acclaim you've accrued, with purity, with love, with devotion, with that deep integrity. That is the definition of success, according to this framework, this path of Bhakti Yoga. So I can say that's really the climate in which I grew up. I was born into that, that I was surrounded by people who were living a lifestyle which aspired to that vision of success, to more or less, to greater or less degrees. Everyone also dealing with their own internal sort of pushing and pulling of how they feel personally fulfilled or successful in their lives. Because, to be spiritual it's an uncovering, it's a journey, it's a very personal thing. And as you know, everybody is on their own path of progress, personal path of progress. So when I was younger, I would say, I was surrounded by a lot of people who had turned away from materialistic goals, what they would have defined as materialistic goals, to pursue a very spiritually focused life. Many of them, including my parents, had abandoned their education and joined the ashram when my dad was only 17, my mom was 20. And at least for, each of them, they didn't know each other at that time. They were in different countries, but they were both living this ashram life for about 10 years each before they got married. So it was a very, very focused and dedicated type of life. And so I think my earliest pictures of what success was that to be a super spiritual person. And also to not be too attached to things of this world, however you may, categorize those things that we reach for.
Do you experience that was and is relatively unusual as a framework for children growing up in the world?
Definitely. Yeah.
At what point did you realize that?
I think until I was 10 years old, I was quite, because the community we were in, there's a place, it's a beautiful spiritual temple and community. There's a school, there's a college, a monastery. It's a very extensive place. You've been there before, Bhaktivedanta Manor. It's just out north of London, about half an hour outside of London. And it's a beautiful country estate. So it has like 80 acres of beautiful grounds, a lake and everything. And I went to school there. My parents were working there. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a bubble in that sense, a beautiful bubble. But basically the people I knew were people who were in that world pursuing the same goals. My parents, both their families, so that our relatives, although we didn't see them very often, when we would visit them, or, when I would just see other people as we would walk out, go to the shops or something, I knew that the lifestyle we're living is a bit different. But it wasn't till I really left the school at the temple when I was 9-10 years old, and starting to go to school with other kids, I really felt this very sharp sort of hit of like, wow, this is really different. Because, and I always use this example, but it was a very visceral kind of feeling, because from the time that I started school at like 4 years old, we were studying the Bhagavad Gita, the sacred text from ancient India, which talks about the soul. It talks about the body being like a coat that eventually gets discarded, and the wearer continues and puts on a new coat, and so many concepts which most kids don't think about or talk about, but that was very commonplace for us. And so I think I was looking at the world through those glasses to a certain extent, and it gives you a very different perspective. And to sort of interact with other kids and just encounter that clash of values or clash of perspectives. Not that it was necessarily a violent clash, but internally it felt a little churny for me.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
It's fascinating to me to listen to you, because I think anyone who, I mean, in this moment, actually, I'm wondering if it's just all of us at some point have to confront that. Most people, perhaps in the opposite order, like they are raised in a much more materialistic society, right, or culture or family.
Right.
And if they find the opportunity to pursue spirituality, then they have that sort of conflict or cognitive dissonance in the other direction. But they do, like, the material life and the spiritual life kind of like butt heads, at least at some points along the journey, if not always.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to listen to you talk about it in that order. It feels to me like there's actually a tremendous, I want to say, mercy or kind of feeling of compassion, I think, that it gives me in with myself in my own struggles to navigate that. It's like, oh yeah, this is challenge. This is a real thing. No matter what your background is, no matter when it comes to you, it's a real thing to connect. And actually, I mean, what better explanation for why we're having this conversation? Because I think for me, the inspiration for this series of exploring success, specifically with my spiritual teachers and people who I think of as spiritual leaders, whether they identify that way or not, has felt really important to me as I have been navigating my own relationship to the concept of success and what that means to me. How personal it is, that everyone's definition, everyone's concept is different, unique, personal, and that it's an important thing for us to talk about as spiritual people, not necessarily because it's more important than something else. I don't think it is, but because if we don't talk about it, then we're just, my perception is that we're just kind of like avoiding this thing that actually is quite central to the society that we live in today. So I'm really excited to hear you speak about it now, both from your adult perspective, but also because you are someone, at least in my life, that's in a relatively unique position of moving among communities that are like you touch celebrity on a pretty regular basis, and you've been on Russell Brand's podcast, and like there's a lot of indications of that kind of material success that have just increased. I feel like you've always had that energy in my perception, but they're really the collaboration with Willow Smith. It's like you're touching a very particular frame of success that not everybody gets to have connection with. And I'm really excited to both hear from you and also learn from you how you meet that. How you find integrity and resonance in yourself as you navigate those worlds. So what is success to you now? How do you define it? And how do you relate to these kind of stereotyped concepts of success that come into your life?
Yeah, I think that some people are the type to be always in a state of sort of fluidity around these ideas. At least that's how I feel I am. And maybe it's an artistic trait where you never want to quite say, well, this is what it is, you know? You're always sort of examining it and then negotiating with it and like, let me just sketch it from this angle and see what that looks like. And whereas I feel like some people are the type of people that can write something on a page and be like, that's how I feel about success, and that's how I'm going to feel for the next 15 years or whatever it may be. That's my goals, you know. I'd say for, you know, the sort of the quintessential artist in me. Now that I can embrace also that label for myself, which has been a bit of a journey.
The label of artist?
The label of artist, yeah. That success is, there's success in expressing myself with honesty, with integrity, in service, with devotion. Whatever I'm able to practice and realize in my practice, and then offer through my artistic creation, that for me is success. That it touches someone's life, that it inspires somebody, and the more the better. You know, I never used to have this feeling that, in one sense, I didn't have it about myself. I didn't think that, oh, I should be the person that's, you know, giving a message to the world or something like that. But I did have a strong feeling, probably also a little imbibed from my parents, who had this sort of, you know, for want of a better word, not mission. It's not a missionary thing in the traditional sense of how we use that word, but it's a desire to spread conscious awareness of a relationship with the divine, relationship with God, with our own spirituality in the world. So I grew up with them being very much engaged like that in community, of being in service to that, to so many people, mentoring people and teaching and guiding and sharing. And so that, to be able to be of service in people's life in that way, and for me particularly, that comes through the medium of art and music and writing, to just be continually performing my dharma, my work that fulfills me, and I know that by that medium I can serve others. That is success, because I can't exactly define what success looks like in a sort of, considering I'm an artist, I find it hard to sort of visualize, like, what exactly do I want to do as success? Because I sort of feel like, well, I don't know. It's going to come as I move along. It's going to become evident as long as I sort of stay present in each moment and make decisions that feel aligned. That's a very wishy-washy sort of answer.
No, it's funny, as you're speaking, first of all, I just resonate with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The alignment, the resonance, the alignment. There is, and then I immediately I had this image of someone who has perfect pitch, which I don't, and evaluating the in-tuneness of something based on that sort of absolute pitch.
Yeah.
Versus, or like a computer, you know, could do that. Versus if you and I just started singing right now, we could come into harmony with one another, or into unison with one another. And that's what, to me, what you're describing is kind of more in that second paradigm, where it's like, if it's actually in harmony, then it's working. It doesn't matter if it's 440 hertz. It's like, are these sound vibrations riding the same wave, or vibrating together?
Do I feel in tune or not? It's a good analogy for me, because I guess listeners may not know that I play the violin, and that has been my first instrument and first voice. Although I'm known for singing now, but I didn't sing originally. I did sing like together with others a lot, but not on my own, not my voice being known. But I played the violin, and the violin was my voice. And the violin is an instrument that practically you just have to keep tuning it all the time, because it's always going a little out of tune. Or even in putting your fingers on the fingerboard, you really have to develop your ear to hear, is my finger in the right place or not? Because there's no keys. So a slight way this way, a slight way that way, you'll be, in or out of pitch. So I feel like that action of checking, tuning, is something that I've done for so many years, musically and also personally, internally. Does this feel right? Does this feel right? Is this is this aligned? And you sort of develop the same way as tuning the violin. I don't use a tuner. I do it by ear, and it's you just have a sense, does it feel right or does it not feel right? I still to this day, I don't always know if I trust that measuring mechanism, but I have given it a lot of trust in the past.
I think it's necessary for an artist.
Yeah.
And maybe also, this feels like a bit more of a leap, but I want to say for a spiritual person, because I don't think that the rules and regulations in scripture necessarily transmit always the essence, or maybe I don't want to, I'm not being critical of the scripture, but more of our capacity to understand what's being transmitted. It's like we have to use our feeling sense. For me, I think that that's actually part of why, I didn't identify as religious or spiritual at all on a conscious level until I went to India for the first time and felt so strangely welcomed by this unconditional devotion that was just like, it doesn't necessarily have to look at a certain way. At the time when I was really like just starting out, it didn't have to look a certain way. No one was judging me. It was the most unconditionally loving space I had ever been in a temple in India, touching some sacred stone. It was like, it sort of dismantled this very, I want to say, puritanical idea that I had from growing up, that there's right and wrong, and you better do it right or else you're going to go burn in hell. And, this very like threatening approach to a divine relationship. When I started meditating, when I went to India, I just was able to table all that and find that my organism knew where the divine was, because where the divine was, there was also this unconditional love. That's how I kind of think of, if I go to the most abstract definition of God, that's the definition. Wherever there's unconditional love, that's God, that's Krishna. We humans are imperfect at the unconditional love thing.
Yeah.
The earthly realm is pretty imperfect on that, but so therefore that it actually makes it quite clear what's God and what's not. And so we have to be able to trust ourselves. We have to be able to listen to those sensations inside and outside to find that. And I think it is why creativity is so essential in bringing people into spiritual life, in supporting spiritual life. I'm now thinking about the London celebration that we were at last year. Was it last year? Oh my God, yes, almost a year ago in November, with hundreds of artists coming to share their devotion in that way, was more powerful, I think, for the room in general. It was so supportive to see people's devotion, to experience people's devotion in art.
Yeah, it's a favorite quote I like to quote from I think it was a teacher of mine, Satchidananda Swami. He said that art bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the heart. And so it really is a powerful medium for transmitting spiritual message, a spiritual, sending a postcard to the heart. Hello, remember this. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you say. I think I've come to appreciate that more and more over time as I've embraced the life of a creative person. That sounds so silly because really I've always been like that. But I think, that's another thing altogether. That journey of sort of being okay with saying yes, that's who I am for now. That's what I am. And you were asking what's my definition of success. This is part of my definition of success, to be accepting of oneself, to be accepting is part of becoming truly empowered in doing the work, doing the service that I was born to do. Because if you can't accept who you are, what you're capable of, there's always a sort of inner combat going on, whether it be consciously or unconsciously pushing against something. And many times that's part of life's journey that we're meant to go on. It teaches so many lessons. But I think that as we become attuned also to our psychophysical nature and see, okay, this is how I can serve, this is how I can offer, to be accepting of oneself, in the imperfections also, as you said, we all have. That is a beautiful aspect of success for me.
I mean, I have never had this thought before. Now that I'm thinking it, I'm like, that seems quite obvious. But as I'm listening to you, I feel like you are this level of acceptance that you're talking about in my body feels like freedom, like liberation.
Yes.
And so for the first time, I'm like, oh, success is liberation. Oh, yes. Oh, that's true. And that's why it is so important that we're not measuring ourselves against someone else's definition. This much money, this much fame, this many followers, I find that all those external measures of success are almost always irrelevant, beside the point, a distraction from the actual thing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, one of the things that I really admire about you, as I've witnessed you kind of, I think in some ways I knew that you were doing this, and in other ways I didn't, but to witness you kind of claiming your potency, your potential for impact, and letting yourself shine in this way that did also result in more followers or more money or more opportunity. And yet that wasn't the thing, actually. And I'm also curious if has that been challenging for you in any way? Have you ever been sort of tempted to be really excited about the material aspect at the expense of your personal self-acceptance or personal liberation?
I almost don't want to say no, because it seems so it seems like tempting fate, like as soon as I say no, it's like down I tumble. I think it's very natural to be tempted on a moment to moment sort of way. Of course, it's like I notice myself, like, for just a very simple example, over the last year or so, when I joined Instagram, for instance, it was me getting away from Facebook, because Facebook had become this thing. And I was like, I just want to be somewhere quiet where I can post my pictures and just have a few friends. Like, I don't know that many people on Instagram, so I'll just have a few people that I connect with there. And I just used to just share about my life. And of course, in a very short time, Instagram changed into this whole other realm where now I think it's probably one of the most used social media platforms. And it's very much about people presenting their sort of, those who are at least on there as an aspect of their work or their career, presenting their sort of brand and their identity and all of this, and keep tracking all these elements. And that wasn't something that I had been thinking about before, or really even wanting to have anything to do with. But as it started to increase, it was quite organic. And then at a certain point, I noticed myself start to just watch the number, and I would watch, oh, okay, yeah, oh, it's gone up one, and like, oh, cool, I wonder when it's going to go up to the next 100, or like, it's like a game. And I see myself doing that, and I watch myself also, and because I wonder, okay, are you attached to it now? Like, would you think that there's something wrong, or people don't like you if you notice it going down? What will you think about yourself How much how much are you thinking yourself to be successful? Because this number is going up. What is that a mark of success? Is it a mark of success that people are saying nice things about you? I check myself because I think I'm so grateful for this, my start in life and my upbringing, because I was surrounded by people who I was surrounded by so many wonderful people, but in particular, there were several people who have had such a great impact in my life because of the depth of their character, their integrity, their exemplary being. That for me, just to bring them to mind, to bring them to heart, it will help me, it will guide me in any situation. I'll be in a situation, I'll think of that person or think of those people, and I'll feel immediately, what would they be feeling about this? Maybe I'm not always right, but on the whole, because I've observed them so much, I'll have a sense, like, would they be feeling like this is aligned, this is good, or this is not good? And because my deepest goal in life, my deepest definition of success is to be like them, then that's the greatest thing for me. I don't want to compromise that. I'm afraid to compromise it, but I'm not so afraid that I'm not willing, at least now, to take some risks. I sort of know, like, okay, maybe I'm risking, maybe I'm playing with fire a little bit. Maybe it's playing with fire to have some fame and be seen and have these sort of, as you said, things that people commonly will define as success. Because naturally there's attachment that comes. We can start to link our self-worth to those things. But trying to do that in service, there is a risk element, but I also have come to trust that if I am prayerful in my actions of doing those things, that even if I get a little, big-headed or whatever it may be, that those lessons will come in and I'll get cut down to size, and that might feel painful, but it won't last forever. And then I'll learn and I'll grow from that point. So it's not going to be like the end of the world. I think I used to have that fear, like, no, let me stay away. What's going to happen? So yeah,
I love that. It feels very trusting of yourself, trusting of God, trusting of the universe, that you're not spending a lot of energy worrying about the dangers ahead. And at the same time, that they exist, and you trust that when they arise, that you'll learn what you need to, like, that you're not against. Say that again.
That's on a good day. I do worry on other days. I'm definitely, I can be a worrier, but
I had not fully comprehended the just tremendous relevance of Prabhupada's journey to the West and the significance of what he accomplished in a very short period of time at a very late time in his life, in terms of like what you're talking about now in terms of fame. And so I'm just aware of it. When we went to India in January with our group, that was a lot of what we ended up talking about, was Prabhupada's example of being willing to go big in service of this vision, knowing that he personally was probably not all that interested in it, was not that he might have, I think he did prefer to just like stay in Vrindavan and be, live his relatively small, quiet life where none of the West would have ever known his name. But because he was called and assigned this mission, that he was willing to throw his whole life up in the air and end up becoming one of the most influential humans that's ever lived on planet Earth. Seemingly without like, I wish we could pick his brain now. And like, how was it to become so famous and hang out with the Beatles and like do all these things? You know, it's a very, I think you and your experience give a little window into what that might have been like and how he navigated it. I feel like you have studied a lot under both his teachings and his lineage. So I think I'm saying that I'm interested in anything that you have to say, but I'm saying that both as a curiosity, as a commentary, and also like just I really believe that because you have invested so much in your own spiritual integrity, like I also trust in that. I think in me the reason that you are touching the lives of these very influential celebrities and collaborating at the level that you're collaborating is you're the best person to be doing that, because you are so uniquely uninterested in the trappings of what that might mean.
I don't think I'm uniquely uninterested, but I do think I do think I've been very fortunate, as I said before, to be around people who are uninterested, and to feel what that feels like, to be around people that it doesn't really matter to them, those things, you know, and to aspire to be like those people, not because they're uninterested, but because what they're interested in, I'm interested in that, you know. I want to be that. I want to be a person that has that is walking towards a person that can love unconditionally, that can see all beings with equal vision, you know, these qualities that are to really know what is humility. It's those things are priceless treasures. And no, I think when you've had a chance to be around people who are cultivating in a practice, a spiritual practice, and a way of living those things, and then comparatively, if you have any brush with fame or money or any conventional type of success, it's very clearly felt that the two are not, they're not related really. Like those things, it's not that there's no value in them, but they're not really helping you to have that. They're sort of just it's a type of energy, and you can have it for a while, it can go away, but whether you have it or you don't, it's that cultivating those things is something that you have to do as its own thing, and it's a very core thing. So I think you know, I am interested in it to the degree that I think a normal person who's on a path of their life would be, you know, like it's lovely to hear beautiful feedback from people, to hear that what I do has touched them. It feels nice to I think especially artists, they want to be seen and heard. They want to have that feeling of being seen and heard in their expression. So to feel seen and heard is a lovely thing, and it's magnified when it's by lots of people. But I would say also, because by my teachers I've been sort of warned about the dangers of being in that position of being seen and heard since I was a teenager. Actually, maybe I think some of them had some, perhaps, I don't know if it was foresight, because at the time I wasn't really, it's not that I was so well known, but I think maybe they saw that I had some ability, and maybe they thought that whatever they were seeing at that point was going to magnify or increase. And so they, particularly one, Yamuna Devi, she would every time I would be with her, we would read together from this book which was speaking about what is real kirtan, devotional music. What is real kirtan? And those definitions were very strict. They were very pure, very high standard. And she would impress upon me, you know, it's dangerous what you're doing, you know, to be on a stage, to be in front of lots of people, When you're young, you have a youthful beauty, like it attracts a certain energy. And so you have to learn how to, either do it and do it very carefully and really try to cultivate your internal, depth, or stay away from it. She would sort of impress this upon me, and I took it really seriously because I really trusted her, and she was like a hero. She's like a hero to me. So I think that gives me a real caution about it, that acts as like the what do you call them on a bowling alley?
The bumpers.
The bumpers. I always need those bumpers when I go bowling, but I'm like, that's my definition of success. I got it to the end, but it was like, ding, ding, ding. I use the bumpers to bump off to get to the end. But yeah, I need those bumpers, and I use them a lot.
I love that image. Because I think for me, they're like my child voice. Actually, I have two children in this. One of them is like thrilled that that's allowed, and the other one is like, oh, but isn't that cheating to have those bumpers? What if you? But I love the energy of what you're talking about. It's like, yes, of course. Like if we're gonna go, why not have those when it comes to our spiritual lives in particular? Why not have all the resources we possibly can to fortify ourselves?
Yeah. Fortify, that's a great word. Fortification. It's not an imposition. It's not, I don't feel bound or constricted or oppressed. I feel fortified, as you say. I'm still me within the fort, but it's protecting me. It's strengthening me.
Yeah. For sure. In my experience, I am grateful both for your willingness to take the risk and let yourself be seen and heard, because the experience of seeing and hearing you has been so important to me. And I think it's inextricable from my appreciation for the commitment that you have made to that fortification, because I think that's why your voice, just as one aspect of this, is so impactful to me, because it transmits something that is more than your body. It doesn't make sense that I could have the experience that I have listening to your voice, not on the material level. It only makes sense because there's something else happening. And so
I believe that's true, because when if I listen to my voice objectively, which I'm also, I also play instruments, so I can just listen and just hear this. And I hear myself singing, and like, I know that I have a good voice, and like I can sing, I can hold the pitch, and I can hear all the things that are good about it. But I also hear singers who are just like phenomenal, just incredible. And so I can see where my voice is compared to them. I don't have the greatest voice. But that's why I believe in when people tell me the experience they're having sometimes when I sing, I'm like, that makes me believe in the power of sacred sound, because I know it's not me. I know I have to be clear in my intention. I have to maintain my own practice. That's a part of it. But it's not because of something that I'm doing. It's because it is different than just music or any, lyrics that I'm just coming up with. I believe in that power, and I believe in it because I also experienced that from people who, again, I wouldn't say that their voices are so amazing, or I experience it when I gather together with a group of friends and sing this music, and we're all it's just very simple and humble, but I could have a completely transcendent experience. Like, where did that come from? We're just sitting in my back garden, playing a few little shakers and little instruments, and it's like, what is this? It's otherworldly at its best. So yeah.
Well, I thank you for all that you've done and all that you will do. I am forever affected, changed, more myself because of you and what you have done already, and just so thrilled to be living at this time with you, supported by you and your service, and really inspired to raise the standard always. Not in a pressurized way, but just in a reminder, like, oh, that, yes, that, the flavor of that, the taste of that, that's the direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's raise that bar all together. I feel inspired by that. And I feel that the more that we also seek out the company of those who are really going for the gold, not in a competitive sense, but they're like, I'm really seeking the essence of things. I'm really trying to live with that depth, with that heart. When we seek out that company, it gives a sense of where that bar can really be in the most inspiring and empowering way. And I think that gives so much shape to a concept of success in life. Because until you see, it's like anything, until you see someone doing it, how do you know that, okay, that's what I want to do, you know? So I'm inspired by you. I'm so encouraged, and I'm so grateful to have this time to reflect on these things. I don't think anyone's really asked me these type of questions before.
Thank you for being so open and sharing so generously. I know that we will do more in the future, and I'm excited to do that.
I would love to. Thank you so much, Jessie.
Where should people find you? How can, to the extent that we can do anything to support you, how can we help you? How can we serve you?
Thank you. Well, I have an album and also a lot of other music on all sort of digital streaming platforms. You can just search my name, Jahnavi Harrison. My album is called Like a River to the Sea. And I think I'll be releasing some new music very soon. Tomorrow I'll find out when that's going to be exactly, but soon, before the end of the year. And then, on social media, Instagram, I post a lot of things. I update whenever I'm doing something. Soon I'll be starting to do live kirtan broadcasts again, which I was doing during about 5 weeks of the lockdown early on in England. We were doing them daily, and it was such a beautiful experience. And so I've been really missing doing that, and to offer that again. So
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, beautiful. Beautiful. Jahnavi, thank you forever.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you too. Take care, Jessie.
You too.